निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes. With torchlight of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire free, who can fulfill the desires of everyone. They are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Mukam karuti vachalam pangum nangayate girim yat kripatamaham vande shri gurum dintaranam. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, we will continue our discussion on this beautiful Bhagavatam, Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam. So, we completed till verse number 16 of Canto 2, Chapter 1. Chapter 1, the first steps to God realization. Yeah. So in that, some main points were that Sukadeva Goswami is answering the question of Parikshit Maharaj, and we noticed a very important point here that Sukadeva Goswami actually he actually first of all, he glorified the question of Parikshit Maharaj, and then he think of how this Bhagavatam was given to him by Vyasadeva. It's not that he is going to answer something by his own concoction, and which we heard in the first canto also. In the beginning, Sutta Goswami reflected on what his spiritual master has spoken, and this is exactly the same thing when we hear our different disciples of Srila Prabhupada, when they are asked any question and when they are answering, they always say that this is what Srila Prabhupada says. This is what Srila Prabhupada says. So this means that how important it is to hear very attentively and very take the message in and apply, then only we can speak like that, right? So how important it is to hear from our spiritual masters and Srila Prabhupada, so that we speak what we have heard, not something made by our own mind, right? Very, very important principle. So, and then the main thing was like the questions that Parikshit Maharaj asked is that what is the duty of a person in general, and especially for one who is going to die? What should one hear about, chant, and remember and worship? So Sukadeva Goswami, so something like generally we hear a good definition means it is positive as well as negative, means what is one should do and what is one should not do. Mean a definition of something is what it is and what it is not, so it should be covering both. So Sukadeva Goswami first describes, and same thing we hear in Nectar of Instruction also, what is it that is harmful and what is it which is good for us, right? Atyahara priyasascha parajalpo niyamagara jansangascha lolam cha shadvir bhaktir vinashyati. And then what is that? Utsaha nischaya dharya tat tat karma parvartanat sangatyaga stovriti shadvir priti laksh shadvir bhakti parsidati. Means that helps us in growing in our devotional services, right? And then in the definition of pure devotional service, what is it? Anya avilashita shunyam Jnana karmadi anavritam anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. So first line is what it is, what should not be there, and second line is what should it be, right? So very, very important to have that. And similarly, we have yama and niyama, means we have certain like 4 regulative principles which we should not do, and there are positive ones we should chant here and study scriptures. Those are there, right? And then Ante Narayan Smriti, right? That no matter what thing we do, whichever path we follow, but we should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what do we have to do? Then we should hear chant like the engaging in the devotional services of the Lord, right? Yeah. And then it was given how this was Vyasadev actually, how it was, it's speaking about Sukadeva Goswami a little bit. Yeah, and then in verse number 10, he's speaking about that he should speak that Srimad Bhagavatam that he has heard from Vyasadeva, right? And then he was saying that full attention, if we hear Srimad Bhagavatam with full attention and respect, then what happens is one's unflinching faith in Krishna will develop, right? Yeah. And then what we heard, constant chanting of the holy name, and we heard about 10 offenses in the purport. Yeah. And then Parikshit Maharaj was overwhelmed. Oh, how am I going? I have only 7 days. So Sukadeva Goswami told him that it's better to live one moment of life in Krishna consciousness than standing like trees without Krishna consciousness for thousands of years. And then he gave the example of Satvanga Maharaj, how we should be alert about the real goal of human form of life. So everything that we do should align to that goal, and we should not do those things which are taking us against that goal, away from that goal, right? So quality of life matters, not just the quantity, right? Not the thousands of years of living, but just the quality, how I am doing that. And then it started with, and then Sukadeva Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that you don't have to worry. You have 7 days and you can do all your responsibilities and duties that are supposed to be done. And then he starts describing the Ashtanga Yoga for attaining liberation, right? From verse number 15. So we read 15 and 16. So the first step was one has to be free from the fear of death, right? Fear of death. And he must cut off the desire for sense enjoyment by the weapon of detachment, right? Yeah. Okay, if anybody had any realization or anything you share, otherwise we can continue. And then it was in the purport we were hearing about all that Vanprastha and sannyas and all that. Okay, should we continue to the next verse, or if somebody wants to say something before that? No, nothing. Okay, so let's.
Mataji, can I read?
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, start Rashmi. In the meantime, I'll share the screen.
Mataji, it is 16 or 17?
17, 17.
17, okay.
My memory is correct or not, I don't know that part, but I believe it is 17.
Yeah, 70, Mataji.
It is 70.
Yeah, okay.
Abhiyasan manasa shuddham trivid brahmakshasara param mano yachej jita swaso brahma bijam avishmaram. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the 3 transcendental letters A, O, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. Omkar or Pranav is the seed of transcendental realization, and it is composed of the 3 transcendental letters A, O, Om. by its chanting by the mind in conjunction with the breathing process, which is a transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance, has has devised by the experience of great mistakes, one is able to bring the mind which is materially absorbed under control. This is the way of changing the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped, but to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, the quality of engagement by the mind has to be changed. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs, and as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Omkar is the seed of all the transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about a desired change of the mind and the senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Pranav Omkar has been accepted as the direct, literal representation of supreme absolute truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, has recommended above, can easily chant Omkar, Pranav Omkar. This Omkar is a note of address such as O my Lord, just as Om Hari Om means O my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord Himself. So also is Omkar. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained to the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranav Omkar within the mind. Within the mind, as we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc. of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present material sense. It is necessary that through the mind, the center of the sensual activities, such transcendental realization is set into motion. The devotees directly fix their mind on person of absolute truth. But one who is unable to accommodate such personal feature of absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. Haribol.
Yeah, you want to
Yeah,
share something, Krishna?
yeah, Mataji. like Sukadev Goswami saying, like in the previous verse, you know how to sit and all that. And in this verse, what to meditate upon is the three-letter Omkar. By controlling the breathing process, you can control the mind. So this method, it's mechanical, and also when you go into this mechanical way, you keep doing, and then you get into trance. That's kind of this method. And one thing, um, when it is so basically we have to change the habit of the mind. So what with this Omkar, our mind can be engaged into that, and yeah, engaged into that. And also, so sense, basically the active sense organs, right? It is it starts with, so what they are saying is the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally our senses will also change. Is one thing. And the first of all, this Omkar meditation is for anybody who are like neophytes, who cannot they cannot meditate on the Lord's form. For them this
Yeah.
method is, which is mechanical process. But if one can directly fix their mind on Supreme Personality Godhead, so that is the best, is what
Yeah, yeah, but actually, yeah, what it is like those people who cannot directly uh, go to the Supreme Personality of God, engaging in devotional services of the Lord, they have to actually um, they have to do something, start with something. So so here actually in this purport, I believe, if my memory is correct, Srila Prabhupada describes that this Om is not actually something impersonal or anything, but it is the representation of Supreme Personality of Godhead, as if I remember correctly somewhere. Yeah, here. Therefore, Krishna says that he is Omkara in the Vedic mantra. So here, Omkara, Pranava, is the symbolic sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Tat Sad Iti Nirdesho Brahmana Stri Vidha Smritaha. The three words Om Tat Sat immediately invoke the Supreme Person. So this is to be noted that it is not just the sound, but it is actually representing the Supreme Person. Therefore, Krishna says that he is Omkara in all the Vedic mantras, Parnava Sarva Vedeshu. The Vedic mantras are pronounced beginning with Omkara to indicate immediately the Supreme Personality of God. At Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, begins with the word Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. There is no difference between the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudev and Omkara Parnava. We should be careful to understand that Omkara does not indicate anything Nirakar or formless. Indeed, this verse immediately says Om Namo Bhagavate. Bhagavan is a person. Thus, Omkara is the representation of Supreme Person. Omkara is not meant to be impersonal as the Mayavadi philosophers consider it to be. This is distinctly expressed here by the word Rushaya. Okay. So basically, Omkara actually is just for those, I mean, when one is not able to directly come to in the process of devotion services, and also for sometimes mind is just crazy, very crazy. So if that is what, just to calm the mind, if the deep breathing is done and Om is recited, then the mind comes under some, can be peaceful. Why does it become peaceful? By saying Om, because Om is representing the Supreme Lord, right? Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Yeah, very,
Mataji,
very. Huh?
I have a question. I have heard lectures, not from Prabhupada, but I think from Radhesham Prabhu, where he says, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om represents Brahman, Bhagavate represents Paramatma, and Vasudeva is the first.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So because Brahman is what? Brahman is also the partial form of the Supreme Lord, right? So
Okay,
it
yeah.
depends. It depends on what we think about, what meaning, what is our conception. But in reality, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I am that Omkara, right? Parnava, I am Omkara Parnava. So what does, and he is a person, he's standing person, Krishna is standing and he is saying that. So it depends upon the what do we say, mood of the reciter,
Yeah.
right? We can take it in that sense also, and that other sense also, because actually Krishna is person as well as impersonal, both, right? So in that sense we can take it like that.
Okay, thank you.
So something here, one more thing. um
Also, the Omkara, when you said, when you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Omkara
yeah,
is included in it.
included in that, yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Yeah, and also like I was saying, the mind, if it is totally, astray, then to bring the mind under the control of the self, this om helps, and that is what we see like in yogas and all when we do. They do that, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's all I think in this word. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next words. 18. Someone like to read?
I can read, Mataji.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Nisyache visayebhyo shan manasa buddhi sarati manakarami manakarma bir akshiptam subharte dharayad via. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdraw it from sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. Purport. The first process of spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of the pranava omkar and by control of the breathing system is technically called the mystic of yogic process of pranayama, or fully controlling the breathing air. The ultimate state of this pranayama system is to be fixed in trance, technically called samadhi. But experience has proven that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabitated with Maneka. History has already recorded this. Mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activity at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status, and thus disturbs one from 100% engagement in self-realization. Therefore, Sukdev Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of the personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also recommends this direct process in the Bhagavad Gita. Thus, the mind being spiritually cleansed, one should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by the different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, etc. If performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress even for the disturbed mind. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhu, you want to say something?
Yes, again, Mataji, I think the mind is very, very difficult to control. And the only way the mind can be controlled is to engage in Krishna's service. Then the mind will be controlled, because the mind cannot be idle. It will, because of even if you try not to, from previous, in the past, subconscious mind gathers things. So the mind has to be involved in Krishna conscious activities. Otherwise, it's difficult to control the mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So this here, and why Sukadeva Goswami, he is just starting, like, okay, if one has to start from zero, then how one should start. That is why this process is described here. And later in the later chapters, he is going to the connection with Supreme, the meditation of Paramatma, and then devotional service he is going to describe. So he's giving a process for everyone, not just for devotees, right? So initially, and also sometimes in our chanting, this can be helpful, because sometimes mind is just completely, we can bring it back to, I mean, at least some peace when it is completely disturbed by chanting Om. And then can chant our mantras, I mean, Hare Krishna mantra. So this example of Vishwamitra Muni, Shira Prabhupada always gives many times. And this mind is not there, but the body is there. So, we have so many obstacles in our chanting or any devotional service. We have like laziness. Sometimes we feel sleepy in chanting. In Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this laya means sleepiness, and then he says vikshepa, which is disinterest kind of. I don't, even though I'm not sleepy, but I don't have that taste. I don't want to chant like that. And then there is another apratipati, which is both of them are not there, but just that I don't feel like doing it like that. So there are different obstacles actually. Some anarthas are there. So and there is Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, he says on his reflection on Madhurya Kadambini on that topic, he says that when we go to temple, we are doing some side talks instead of engaging in devotional services and talking about Krishna and that. So he says that we bring our body to the temple but not our mind. And then this example comes to mind, that when Akrura went to take Krishna and Balram from Vrindavan to Mathura, what was his meditation? The whole, like it took him time to travel from Mathura to Vrindavan, and his whole meditation was, oh, I'm going to have the darshan of Krishna and Balram, and seeing the marks of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and Balram on the dust of Vrindavan. He was just rolling in that dust and getting so much ecstatic and so much eager, so much looking forward to meet Krishna and Balram, right? So basically when we go to temple, just an example, this is just an example, so preparing our consciousness actually that to have the darshan of the Lord, that eagerness is there, lolyam is there to see the Lord. So meaning we have to bring the mind, and the definition of sadhana bhakti is, what is that? Somebody want to say that? What is the definition of sadhana bhakti? We discussed that so many times. Someone wants to say, what is that?
Is it that I don't want any fruitive activities, but just pleasure of the Lord?
Not that. No, that is not sadhana bhakti. That is pure devotion.
Sadhana bhakti, following rules and regulations.
No, there is something else that comes in our Bhakti Shastri courses in Nectar of Devotion. So that is that engaging, our simple meaning of that Sanskrit verse is engaging our senses and mind, not just senses and mind in the service of Supreme Lord Krishna with the goal in mind. To attain, goal is what? To attain love of Krishna, right? So that goal has to be always there, and engaging not only senses but the mind. Mind has to be absorbed, otherwise we will not get taste. Otherwise we will have this problem like Vishwamitra, right? And also the greatest yogi, Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 6:47, yogi nama pi sarvesham adgatenantaratmana. What is that next line? Yogi nama pi sarvesham adgatenantaratma Shardavan Vasteyo Mam Same Yuktatma Mataha. Right? So those yogis who are engaged in my loving services, they are the highest of the yogis. And what is that? Bhakti Yoga. So that is the highest. This is mechanical to start with, but ultimately we have to do come to this loving devotional service. And in one class, Srila Prabhupada, he says, have you heard of gopis sitting and meditating? They are always engaged in doing some service. So bhakti means not just devotion, but devotional service, doing some practical service, not just sitting and meditating.
Mataji, can you tell the verse for that sadhana bhakti?
I think it is Kriti Sadhya Bhaves Sadhya Bhava Sa Sadhna Bhida Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasa. No, not this one. I will see. So my mind is getting mixed up in multiple verses. So I will send that one. Find a sadhana bhakti one.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Okay, sorry. Should we go to the next verse?
I can read, Mataji.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Trataikha paya Dhyayet Avyuchinena Chetasa Manonirvishayam Yuktva Tata Kshanana Smaret Padam Tat Paramam Vishnor Manayatra Prasidati. Translation purport by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is the ultimate truth, the mind becomes completely reconciled in him only. Purport. Foolish persons, bewildered by the external energy of Vishnu, do not know that the ultimate goal of the progressive search after happiness is to get in touch directly with Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. Vishnu Tattva is an ultimate, unlimited expansion of different transcendental forms of the personality of Godhead, and the supreme or the original form of Vishnu Tattva is Govinda, or Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes. Therefore, thinking of Vishnu or meditating upon the transcendent form of Vishnu, especially upon the Lord Krishna, is the last word on the subject of meditation. This meditation may be begun from the lotus feet of the Lord. One should not, however, forget to be misled from the complete form of the Lord. Thus, one should practice thinking of different parts of his transcendental body, one after the another. Here in this verse, it is definitely assured that the Supreme Lord is not impersonal. He is a person, but his body is different from those of conditioned person like us. Otherwise, meditating beginning from the pranava omkara upon to the limbs of the personal body of Vishnu would not have been recommended by Shukadev Goswami for the attainment of complete spiritual perfection. The Vishnu forms of worship is a great the Vishnu forms of worship in great temples of India are not, therefore, arrangements of idol worship, as they are wrongly interpreted to be by the class of men with poor fund of knowledge. Rather, they are different spiritual centers of meditation on the transcendental limbs of the body of Vishnu. The worshipable deity in the temple of Vishnu is identical with the Lord Vishnu by the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Therefore, a neophyte concentration or meditation upon the limbs of Vishnu is in the temple, as contemplated in the revealed scripture, is an easy opportunity for meditation for persons who are unable to sit down tightly at one place and then concentrate of pranava, omkara, or the limbs of the body of the Vishnu, as recommended herein by Shukadev Goswami, the great authority. The common man can benefit more by meditating on the form of Vishnu in the temple than on the omkara. The spiritual combination of as explained before, there is no difference between omkara and the form of Vishnu, but persons acquainted with the signs of absolute truth try to create dissension by differentiating between the form of Vishnu and that of omkara. Here it is indicated that the Vishnu form is the ultimate goal of meditation, and as such, it is better to concentrate upon the forms of Vishnu than on impersonal omkara. The latter process is also more difficult than the former. Haribol.
Well, yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, Mataji. So here it is said that after doing the omkar and cleanse the mind, one's mind is cleansed and is ready to perceive the form of Vishnu, then we should meditate on the Vishnu part by part, and it should start from the foot and it moves upward, and we have to meditate upon his the form of Vishnu, which is, and the ultimate cause of Vishnu is Lord Krishna. He is a cause of all causes. So Sukadev Goswami is definitely recommending to meditate upon the form of Vishnu rather than the impersonal Omkara. But initially, we can start with Omkara to settle the mind, but ultimate goal is to set our mind on the form of Vishnu. And Vishnu's form is not like ordinary, it is transcendental, spiritual. He is also saying that in the temples Vishnu forms are there. We should not think that it is idol or something like that. It is definitely and the realized persons will definitely know that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so here Prabhupada quoted that Brahma Samhita verse, Ishvara Parma Krishna Satchidanand Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karan Karanam. This line that Prabhupada is quoting is Govinda is that Sarva Karan Karanam, that the name of that highest form of Vishnu Tattva is Krishna Govinda. And another thing, yeah. So see, first it is Omkara, right? And then when after chanting the Om, when one is purified, then one should meditate on the form. So basically, in our process also, we are chanting the holy name, right? Nam, name, form, qualities, and then pastime will come, right? When we are chanting the holy name and when we get purified by chanting the holy name enough, then Krishna's form will be revealed in our hearts. Yeah, right? And we will understand Krishna's qualities, and then we will see Krishna's pastimes as our acharyas are seeing. So here also in this mechanical process also, after Omkara, one is to, in our conditioned state, meditate on the form of the Lord. And we will hear later that it should start from the lotus feet of the Lord and go up. And just like in Queen Kunti's prayers, we have Namo Pankaj Nabhaya, Namo Pankaj Malini, Namaste Pankaj, no, Namo, what is that? Namo Pankaj Nabhaya,
Namo Pankaj Netraya.
Namo Pankaj Netraya, Namaste Pankaj Angre, right? So she is, because she is Krishna's aunt, right? She is older in age, and if she starts from the lotus feet, then Krishna will be embarrassed. So then that's why in her case, she is starting from his navel. Namo Krishna, Namo Pankaj Nabhaya, Namo Pankaj Malini, Namo Pankaj Nitraya, Namaste Pankaj Angre. And she goes last, but we should go first on the lotus feet. All right, so let's go. One more verse.
Can I read, Mataji?
Yeah, sure, Mataji. Yeah.
Thank you. Rajastamobhayam akshipatam vimudam mana atmanaha yacheda dharanaya dhira hantiya tat karatam malam. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of nature. But one can rectify such conceptions by the relation of Vishnu and thus become pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them. Purport. Persons generally conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance cannot be bona fide candidates for being situated in the transcendental stage of God realization. Only person conducted by the mode of goodness can have the knowledge of the supreme truth. Effects of the modes of passion and ignorance are manifested by too much hankering after wealth and woman. And those who are too much after wealth and woman can rectify their leanings only by constant remembrance of Vishnu in his potential impersonal feature. Generally, the impersonalist or monist are influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance. Such impersonalists think of themselves as liberated souls, but they have no knowledge of the transcendental personal feature of the absolute truth. Actually, they are impure and impure in heart on account of being devoid of knowledge of the personal feature of the absolute. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that after many hundreds of births, the impersonal philosopher surrenders unto the personality of Godhead. To acquire such a qualification of God realization in the personal feature, the neophyte impersonality is given a chance to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. Pantheism is in its higher status, does not permit the student to form an impersonal conception of the absolute truth, but it extends the conception of the absolute truth into the field of the so-called material energy. Everything created by the material energy can be dovetailed with the absolute by an attitude of service, which is the essential part of living energy. The pure devotee of the Lord knows the art of converting everything into its spiritual existence by this service attitude. And only in that devotional way can the theory of pantheism be perfected. Hari Bol.
Very good. Yeah, Mataji, you want to say something?
Yeah, so here Srila Prabhupada said, the person who are in mode of passion and ignorance, they cannot realize the absolute truth in personal form, but only the person in mode of goodness, they have knowledge and they can understand the supreme truth. And the person who are in the mode of passion and ignorance, they are hankering after wealth and woman, and then they cannot remember the Vishnu. They constantly remember Vishnu in the impersonal feature. But Krishna is merciful, and in Bhagavad Gita it is said after many hundreds and births, impersonal even can surrender to the Supreme Lord by the pantheism. I don't know, Mother, what is this pantheism theory, but
Pantheism means like believing that pantheism means many gods.
okay, so last
Everything
they have the pure devotee. They whatever we have, they use in the service of Krishna.
Yeah. More
Last-
ignorant, such impersonalists think of themselves as, but they have no knowledge of Krishna. So this similar, like here, what it is saying, that mode of passion and ignorance, and that can be rectified by relation of Vishnu, and thus become pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them. So there is a similar verse in first canto, second chapter. Somebody remembers that? Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayasche chetayetera sittam tatve prasidati. So it is like from that series of verses are there, right? Sharunatam swakatha Krishna punya sharun kirtana hridyantasto ye abhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. That whole series of verses in first canto, second chapter. First of all, one has to develop that taste for hearing, and that taste of hearing comes from what? Somebody remembers? How do we get the taste for hearing?
Yes, Mataji, by rapt attention, which comes with the clean mind, pure mind, and that comes with the pure eating,
that sequence is one. That is different, but specifically there is verse in the second chapter where Sutta Goswami speaks that Shushrushu Shardhanasya Vasudev Katha Ruchi Sayan Mahat Sevya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nisevanat. So when we do service to the advanced devotees, Mahabhagavatas, then we get the taste for hearing. In the Narad Muni's pastime, that is what we understand, right? He get the chance to serve the Bhakti Vedantas, and then he got the taste for hearing. I think it is verse number 16. Yeah, 16. No, yeah, 16. And then what happens is that this one, then Sharmatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Sharvan Kirtana Hridyantasto hi Abhadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. Right? That one develops once that urge to hear develops, then the dirty things from the heart is removed. And then Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevya. Right? Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Right? I think if I'm, Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. And then that comes Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kamlubhadayasche Chetayetairanahutam Stitam Satve Prasidhati. So that verse is similar to this one. When that loving service is established in the heart, the effects of natures of mode and passion and ignorance, lust, desire, hankering, they disappear. Then the devotee is established in goodness and completely happy. So it's similar, not exactly same, but similar. So by that relationship with the Supreme Lord Vishnu, one is cleansed. So Vishnu, we know, is mode of goodness, representing mode of goodness in material creation, right? So that is why when one is meditating on the Supreme Lord Vishnu, as in the previous verse, the heart is cleansed of ignorance and passion. Yeah, and one becomes pacified, which is mode of goodness, right? So And this verse Prabhupada is quoting here, Bhagavad Gita verse, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudev Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So after many births, a Jnani actually surrenders and understanding that Vasudev Sarvamiti. So that is that pantheism. I think Vasudev Sarvamiti. So this one, to acquire such a qualification of God realization in the personal feature, the neophyte impersonalist is given a chance to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. Yeah, is it clear? Pantheism is that seeing that, oh, this is Lord. So basically that at least they understand that the Supreme Lord is not impersonal, he is a person. So that is why this pantheism, Vasudev Sarvamiti Samatma Sudurlabha. So that is what is described here. And now actually after this one more verse, he is going to, Sukadev Goswami is going to describe the universal form, which is that the whole universe is considered different parts of the body of the Lord. So let us finish this 21 and then the next section will start, that we can do next week. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this varnas different. We say that brahmanas are usually in the goodness,
Mode of goodness, yes.
and then say kshatriyas in passion, and then vaishyas in mix, and then shudras in the tamas. So when they become devotees, their mode also changes to goodness. I would think that is a generalized statement when we say that brahmanas in the mode of,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
so when they become devotees, pure devotees, I would assume that they also
That is Shuddha Sattva, right? Pure devotees is Shuddha Sattva,
Shuddha
means beyond material goodness.
yes, but when they become devotee, like because you're serving Vishnu, you're becoming in the mode of goodness.
Yeah, but as long as we are not fully, completely, every moment serving the Supreme Lord, we will still have the influence of other modes.
Yes, understood.
But major means the higher will be that one, goodness.
Yes, okay. So, but the based on the varnas, that is a generalization, right? It's not like
Yeah. It is a generalization. Yes. Still,
okay.
like, and we know that 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, even though there is Brahmana, they are situated in mode of goodness, but still the mode of ignorance and passion are there. But in the majority, the
Majority.
goodness. That's why that is goodness, called it goodness. They are in goodness.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. As long as one is not fully 100% serving the Supreme Lord, we will still have the influence of material modes of nature.
Yes.
Yeah. And your sound, like there is some ringing sound when you speak. I don't know what is that sound.
Is the laptop it gets getting worse. I have to fix it. I don't know how, but I probably
Yeah, maybe if you use the headphone, then it won't
yeah, I have to use that.
probably do that.
Yes.
Okay, so let's do this one more verse quickly and then we'll end.
I can read.
Yeah, sure. Hari Bol. Happy to hear your voice after long.
Haribol.
Hari
Haribol. Okay, so Yasyam Sandaryam Manayam Yogino Bhakti Lakshanaha Asu Sampadyate Yoga Asrayam Padram Ikshataha. A translation. O King, by this system of remembrance and by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all-good personal conception of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under his direct shelter. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Success of mystic performances is achieved only by the help of the devotional attitude. Pantheism,
or the system of feeling the presence of the Almighty everywhere, is a sort of training of the mind to become accustomed to the devotional conception. And it is this devotional attitude of the mystic that makes possible the successful termination of such mystic attempts. One is not, however, elevated to such a successful status without the tinge of mixture in devotional service. The devotional atmosphere created by pantheistic vision develops into devotional service in later days, and that is the only benefit for the impersonalist. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that the impersonal way of self-realization is more troublesome because it reaches the goal in an indirect way. Although the impersonalist also becomes obsessed with the personal feature of the Lord after a long time.
Yeah. You want to say something?
So it's just saying that it's just saying that like the impersonalist, it's a much more indirect path. And I know Srila Prabhupada would sometimes compare it to like taking the stairs to Krishna instead of taking the elevator towards Krishna. And it's also saying that the pantheism is like it is one tool to use to train the impersonalist mind, so that gradually they will start to see, because they'll start to see Krishna everywhere. Eventually they will they'll really stop trying to achieve like these mystic potencies, like the different siddhis and things like that. They're more focused on they become more focused on serving Krishna, even though it's mixed devotional service. It's still not pure devotional service until you completely give up that impersonal concept. I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, so here this line, the devotional atmosphere created by pantheistic vision develops into devotional service in later days, and that is the only benefit for the impersonalist. So basically, like when this Vasudev Sarvamiti, like when they are seeing that Lord in everything, so but that devotional attitude has to come, the tinge of devotion has to come, otherwise it is not going to work. As it is in Bhagavad Gita, it describes, right, the impersonal way of self-realization is so troublesome because it is indirect way, and then one is in impersonalists, they are dependent on themselves only, they don't depend on the mercy of the Lord. So without that, it's very, very difficult. That's what Krishna describes in. And this remembrance, that the system of remembrance, what is that remembrance of? Vishnu. And by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all good personal conception of Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service. So meaning starting from this impersonal Om and the meditation on the deity form of the Lord, that leads one to devotional service. And this remembrance is very, very important. We hear many, many times that remembrance of the Lord, remembrance of the Lord. And in second chapter also, there with the sword of remembering, right? What is that? Yad anudhaya shina yukta karam granthi nibandanam chindanti ko vidastasya kona kuryat katharatim, right? Who will not do that? Because by the sword of remembrance, I am not remembering exactly which verse is it. So let's see if I can find the number of the verse. Yeah, here it is. So yad anudhyaya sina yukta karam granthi nibandanam chindanti ko vidastasya kona kuryat katharatim. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knot of reactionary work karma by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? So that remembrance of the Lord, and multiple places we heard about that remembrance. All right, dear devotees, it is 8:30. Somebody has quickly to say something, so please share. Otherwise, we will end. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Anybody has anything to say or add quickly? Nothing? All right, so then we will end. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Vancha Kalparubhascha Pitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you all very much, dear devotees.
Hari
Hare
Bol
Krishna.
Mataji.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Mataji.
much.
Haribol, thank you.
Krishna.